So my wife works for the Wood County Health Department, and her first role there was PIO and health educator. And her role was not only to be able to connect with the community in general, but to go into school systems to introduce vegetables to kids.
Imagine that.
And
that they have to be introduced at school.
They had no clue. They knew what French fries were, but they didn't know what potatoes were. So there was a big gap in their educational experience, either at home or in school, wherever it came from, that was never filled. So when you think about what you just said, there was no resource probably in some of those neighborhoods of a grocery store within a few miles of their home to be able to have fresh fruits and vegetables. But what do they have? They have boxed foods, they have fast foods. Those are readily available.
Yeah. Yes, I think Devon Russell in one segment in the documentary talks about that within a mile there are like 2 pizza places, 4 hamburger places, but there wasn't a grocery store.
Yeah.
And so when you have limited resources, so you can't afford a car, so you have to depend on public transportation. How do you take a bus and go grocery shopping? And if that's the case, what are you going to buy? You're going to buy anything that's easy to carry, easy to cheap. You're going to buy cheap because that's all there is to it. When you stop and you think about it, you can buy a frozen meal for $1.25, or $1.99.
Right.
And that's a complete meal, but it doesn't have the nutrients, doesn't have everything that a child would need growing up.
Correct. So let's talk about that for a second. So it's accessibility to grocery stores and healthcare. Those are the kind of things that we know are missing. So how does that get created? How can that tide turn?
I think everybody plays a role in that, in turning that tide, in taking a look at the urban neighborhoods, or the neighborhoods, if they're not urban, that have been disinvested in, and how do we attract that? And it really, in our community, we have ProMedica who's looking at that, Mercy is looking at that, so our healthcare systems are starting to recognize that healthcare starts at home. So that's a huge shift in the right direction. Now we need to work on making sure that there's transportation to jobs. If we're look at the city of Toledo, if I live downtown or in the downtown vicinity, and the good jobs are in Maumee, Perrysburg, Sylvania, and whatnot.
We just had an Amazon that was created over in Rossford.
Yeah.
So how far is that from where they're living?
Exactly, and how do they get there? How do they get there? And that's one thing that Amazon did, is they wanted bus transportation to Rossford. That was something that the city of Rossford had to pretty much guarantee them, because they understood.
Right.
They got it. And I think that that's going to happen more and more, where corporations are going to be like, listen, if my people can't come to work, and when you start thinking about people thinking green and wanting to, lower their footprint on the planet, part of that is transportation. So it's something that will get addressed. It's just the sooner we can address these things and bring them in, the better, right?
So let's talk about how that kind of bleeds into other things. So they need accessibility to work. So now they finally have accessibility to public transportation to get to work. Well, what's in that community that doesn't exist already in their own community? And what are they exposed to? And what do they get the privilege to have close to them? So it starts to bleed into everything else then, right?
It does. It all.
Yeah, so it makes you more aware of things that are outside of your world. So I think, John, our marketing director, and I have had this conversation before, where people that aren't aware of whatever your occupation is or whatever your circumstances are, the words always come up, you just get in your car and go to work. Well, not if you don't have a car. You take public transport, and it goes back to, I've never been on a bus before. So that person has no awareness of how this impacts other people in their community.
No, they really don't. I think that one of the things I say to people is, you've heard the saying, just pull yourself up by bootstraps, right? Well, you got to have boots, and then you have to have the money to buy the straps, because the straps don't come with the boots.
Right.
So, and then you have to understand that you need boots. Right? So you have to know that they exist in order to want them, right? So it's like this whole cycle, circle. This cycle keeps going on and on, and to stop the cycle, we need to create a community of equity and start looking at things with equity. And that's another trick word I think people don't really wrap their brain around. Is the word equity. What does that mean? They understand equal. And they're like, well, everything's equal. Well, yeah, we can create everything equal. And the example I like to use is, if you have an 8-foot fence and you're 4 foot tall, and someone else is 5 foot tall, and the next person is 6 foot tall, equal would be to hand everybody a 2 foot a block that would put you up over the fence in height. Equity is where you look at the 4 foot person and you give them a 5 foot box so they can see over the fence. And so that's kind of gives you a little bit of a, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. So I see it a lot in real estate from the standpoint of, and this is a very insignificant way to put it, but there will be people, when we look at a home, that can't envision how to either set up their furniture, or maybe it has an older kitchen. They can't envision what a new kitchen is going to look like. So going back to what you said, people being able to pick themselves up from their bootstraps, not everybody has that in them to recognize there's something better. I don't know what it is, but it's out there. I know it is, because this can't be it. Some people just can't even envision what that is, because wherever their circumstances are, this is all I know. The Thomas Edisons of the world, how many of those people can envision beyond what even exists today?
Yeah, and the other part of it is feeling like you are worthy of it, right? That you can access this. So what happens if I can go out and buy my boots, and I buy my straps, I put them on, and I pull myself up by the bootstraps, but oh, by the way, that's not for you.
Right.
Go fight a war, come back, but this is not for you.
Right.
There's that element of it too.